Hello, everyone. Welcome to another BDPA Tech and Career Talk. I am your Tech and Career Talk leader, Devin Jenkins. I serve as a commercial IT success manager for digital marketing for US and Canada at GE Healthcare. I currently living in Charlotte, North Carolina, and also founder CEO of Share the Vibes LLC, connecting people through music and technology. Thanks for the connect on LinkedIn. I will definitely confirm that once we get out of the call. So I wanted to give everyone just a quick overview of BDPA and the Taking Career Talks in case you're not familiar with the platform or the organization. And then we'll get into our conversation for today. So BDPA is Black Data Processing Associates. The organization was started in 1975 as a forum for continuing to develop the talent pipeline within the IT industry, the technology field. So we have a focus around youth, especially middle and high school students, teaching them computer programming skills, professional development, and the things they need to in the future have successful careers in technology. But we also are a forum for professionals to continue to develop their skills, network, and grow in their careers as well. And our mantra is advancing careers from the classroom to the boardroom. So we're glad to have you here today. Our tech and career talks take place on the second and fourth Fridays of each month. We have a range of speakers from entrepreneurs to senior executives in corporate world, and everything in between. And some topics are more technology focused, some are more soft skill career focused. But we have something that everyone can benefit from and find value in, regardless of where you're at in life and your career path. So we encourage you to check these out as we have them on a regular basis. If you go to our website, bdpa.org/tech in career talks, or you can go to YouTube, look up the National BDPA channel, and you can find all of our previous conversations there. And this conversation will be out there as well. So I'll share that link towards the end of the call so you don't have to remember it, and you can go bookmark it and have it at your disposal as needed. So with that being said, let's jump into today's conversation. So friend of mine for quite some time, I think it's been about 11 years since we met actually. But Mr. Kevin White, how you doing today?
Yes, Devin, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for asking me to come and participate on this call with BDPA. Just hearing your intro and reading up about it. I mean, I love the mission and completely aligns with what we're doing over at Spottyr and just, commend you on what you all have been able to build in this community.
Absolutely. Well, glad to have you. Welcome to the family. Once you come one time, you're stuck with us. So glad to have you with us. So let's get into it. I like to break the ice with these interviews, just with a kind of a fun question to kick things off. So you can only choose one for the rest of your life: strength training or cardio. What you
Yeah, that's an easy one. So I did grow up playing soccer, so I ran a lot of cardio, and I hated it. So
got?
I love lifting weights and strength training. I think it's really helpful for as far as bone density, will help with your longevity. So as you get older, you can still do all the things that you need to do, play with your kids, be active functionally as well. So I definitely choose strength training for those reasons for sure. And there's an aesthetic appeal to it as well, but that's like the last thing that I look into.
I'll take it, man. Yeah, I might
Shoot.
say cardio. I can go play basketball once a week or something and be all right. So,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
but yeah, I don't know do enough of either right now. But that's neither here nor there. It's not about me today. So in the chat, let us know. Would you choose strength training or cardio? You can only do one for the rest of your life. Strength training or cardio? Let us know in the chat. I just want to see the answers. That'll be a good one just to get the blood flowing. No pun intended there. So let's get into it. So Kevin, first and foremost, just tell the people who you are. What's your story?
So, greetings everybody on the call. I see we got people from all over the place. So, to give a little background about myself. So, Kevin White, born and raised in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, from the South. My family is from Liberia and West Africa, so first generation there as well. I went to school at Georgia Tech, and at Georgia Tech, I studied business administration with a concentration in finance. But I also got a technology background as well. So I took a couple of engineering classes because I knew I wanted to be in the tech space. I knew how important this was back in the kind of like '09 through 2013 years. And Post school, I graduated and went over to GE Healthcare. This is where I met Devin. Started off in the GE Healthcare's like finance rotational program. So it was a 2-year program with 6-month rotations where you got to rotate through all the different functions of finance. And from there, I, got to see how business works and operates at a high level, how to, run a P&L, how to, do budgeting, work cross-functionally with, IT, product, sales, the controllership team. And then from there, I was in Milwaukee at this time. I don't know if you heard this at the beginning of the call. Got a little tired of the cold, and I had to kind of do the Great Escape. So shout out to you, Devin, for still being out that way. But took left that role and went over to GE Power Services back in Atlanta, and was the lead financial analyst there on the team. There, we're working with like turbines that were powering up cities. And then after this role, I actually, a mentor also told me at one point in my career was, "Hey, Kevin, you need to get close to the revenue generating pieces of the business." And so having that always being in the back of my mind, I took a role at this company called Fiserv, which is they bought First Data and then they merged together. They do a lot of processing and financial tech there, a fintech company. And I was a commercial finance analyst there. So not like on sales side, but I was actually helping the sales team like analyze the deals and see how that we were pricing, what the margin looks like on these deals. And I was essentially the right hand man to the GM of that business. And then so at this point, so I've worked, at GE, worked at Fiserv, and a piece I didn't tell about this story about my background yet is, in high school, my best friend and I, we threw an event and, you know, we threw a high school graduation party and we took $400 and we turned that to $20,000. And so that was like a super early win of the taste of entrepreneurship. And so in the back of my mind, I was knew I wanted to do something entrepreneurial, just had to kind of figure out what it would be. And so that's kind of what made me go to this finance path. And from there, so now as I kind of been working at, GE, Fiserv, um, I'm 26, 27 now. I'm trying to think about what I want to do with my career. And in parallel to all of this, I had still been working out. I had still been, I played soccer my whole life. And then that morphed into starting to do personal training because after college, people kind of fall off the wagon. Hey, Kevin, how do you stay in shape? What's your meal plan? What are you doing? And then so I started training just in that kind of like that natural progression. I started to build a business around that. And so I actually started to build a brand called Chief Fitness Officer because I thought I was going to continue to be a CFO on the finance side, but I realized that I was really passionate about helping people. And at this point, I was kind of trying to manage that business, the CFO piece, and I realized I was struggling trying to manage the business side of that. And so I could help my clients achieve their goals through CFO, but I trying to manage the scheduling, the payments, the nutrition planning, the programming, trying to using all sorts of different softwares in order to put that together. That was, really actually I figured it out, but it was super difficult. And I come from I went to Georgia Tech. I have a background in finance. I consider myself a smart guy. And so I'm looking at all my trainer peers. I'm like, I know you guys have to be struggling with this. How are we solving this? So let's pause there. So back in my like 9 to 5 career, I worked at these two big businesses and I realized, hey, I want to go get some startup experience. So I went to work for a company called Sales Loft, which was a SaaS startup that's like a bolt-on top of Salesforce. And I was a senior strategy analyst there. And that's where I really got to see the power of like a subscription model, high growth tech company. And so now I'm experiencing the pain point as a trainer trying to manage the business. And then I'm actually doing the financials. I'm working across all the different functions of this high growth startup. I see how product, I see how IT, I see how sales, I see how engineering all works together. And so that's where I kind of started at the intersection. I was like, oh, this makes sense. Let's go. I'm uniquely qualified to go solve this problem to help trainers and so that they can help their clients. And so that's kind of where like my background and what's kind of led me to Spottyr, which you guys see on my t-shirt here. So Spottyr, which is a mobile platform for personal trainers to manage their businesses and connect with their clients. So I'll beat there because I know that was a lot, but I think that's like the way I kind of like tell the story for sure.
Man, you set the ground greatly, man, and all the dots are connecting. I love how Spottyr brings that together. If you share the vibes, does that for me, bringing tech and connecting people and all that together in one place. So I love that you found that through Spottyr and are really building that out. And before we jump into Spottyr too much, just to talk through the experience, because there was a lot of transition, a lot of change, and all of that. I don't know if
Mhm.
everybody
For
caught
sure.
that. Going from GE to Fiserv to sell off to grad school, full time entrepreneurship. There's a lot of transition in there. And because I know you were also geographically moving too. You know, we were both in Milwaukee. You're in Chicago for a little bit, Atlanta, LA. So talk about that experience, just that transition going from corporate to grad school across country into full time entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Great question, and thank you for bringing that up because I know I don't want to glaze over a lot of that. But it's actually kind of funny because I think even before I start, I want to just make sure to impress upon you all. The time goes by very fast, so just be intentional about the moves that you're making. So I'll just kind of start off, set the table with that. But yeah, so like to your point, the transition. So these transitions weren't random. I'm thinking through strategically about like, hey, like what goals do I want to achieve? So in the story that I just outlined, so I talked about like, hey, I wanted to initially secure my like baseline financial like understanding. And so that's where the GEs, the Fiservs of the world came into play. And once I felt like I had a solid understanding of how the numbers of a business work, so now I could go work in any industry that I felt like. So then I wanted to get the startup experience. So for me, I was like, okay, I knew I wanted, like I said from the earlier story, that hey, I want to get a startup experience. So let me actually see how the big boys do it, so to speak. So that's why I went to sales law. So this was still now in Atlanta. Now, you talked about the transition from sales loft to grad school. So I didn't talk about grad school yet. So while I was at sales loft, think the idea kind of comes together for Spotter and what I'm trying to do here. And but just bluntly speaking, I have an older brother who's also an entrepreneur, and I've seen some of the difficulties when it comes to raising capital. And we know that the percentages are the that go to Black and African American and women founders is like less than like 2%. And so I'm always thinking about how can I position myself to be able to increase the probability of investors saying yes to myself and then the idea that we bring. And so while I came up with this idea, I started doing research on grad schools and obviously fitness, kind of health and wellness. LA makes a lot of sense because it's almost like the kind of like the capital of it. And UCLA Anderson had a program specifically called the Business Creation Program, where you could, go and get your MBA and then incubate your company with all the resources from the school. And so I think there's another key piece in here that I haven't talked about and I think which will actually be very helpful. So a lot of my background was finance and like kind of fitness and wellness. I didn't have the like technical. I'm not technical. I can't code. So I had to go kind of like learn that like product management piece, and so I actually got that skill set while I was in business school. So I got to really dive deep in product and agile methodologies and to really be able to learn and talk to developers. So while I was in grad school in incubated companies, I'm learning this on the fly. And then so that's where like and then that landed me in LA and then I've been here ever since. And then I met my co-founder, very serendipitously, who is also he was the lead engineer at Calendly for the Android side, which he built from the ground up. He was, I think, the 77th employee, and then got to see it, his Calendly scale up to 700. So, that's kind of how the transitions happened, and how I was thinking about them as I was making them.
Man, it's quite the journey. That's quite a journey. And you kind of spoke to. I was going to ask you about that learning curve, kind of getting the tech skills you needed to work, be in the tech startup world with your finance background. And you kind of spoke to that going through grad school. You got those experiences. So that takes me into the kind of fitness tech world that you're operating in now. So just to kind of set the stage for the audience here, um, how would you define a startup from a tech startup to a fitness tech startup? think those are three distinct things. There's overlap, of course, there, but how would you distinguish those three if you distinguish them?
They're all similar. They all have, the root word startup in it. When I think of startup, I think of just any business that's starting out. That could be, icicles, ice popsicle stand that's on the street. That's a startup. You could be, starting a shoe shine business. That's a startup. So that's really where I think where you're talking about startup, right? It's really about just identifying an opportunity and then creating solving that problem and then charging for it. So that's kind of where essentially a startup. The tech startup. So you said startup, tech startup, and then fitness tech,
Yep.
right? So the tech startup is now you're leveraging technology to be able to solve a problem, and that can essentially scale out, you know, being asset light to a lot of people. And this is why tech startups are so um, lucrative, and you see all the capital, kind of flows to these tech startups because the rate of growth of the people that you're able to serve grows disproportionately faster than the actual amount of people that you actually have to have on your team. And we're especially seeing that with AI. So
Mhm.
that's really kind of the difference about tech startups that you're seeing versus a traditional kind of like brick and mortar business. As you kind of the step function is a lot slower than a tech startup. And then to kind of land the plane on the fitness tech startup. So now we talked about startup. Now we've talked about this tech startup, and now we're just industry focused with the tech startup. So the fitness tech startup is we have identified a target market who we're trying to serve. So if you heard the phrases like riches and niches, so we're like kind of a founder market fit. I have a background in fitness, wellness, training. We've identified, I know the user very well, in and with inside and out, and deep. So lots of times more than they know themselves. And so we're tailored the technology to serve this user base, very well. And obviously, we are a startup. Obviously, we're raising capital, but we're a startup who's serving this, group of people, and we're leveraging technology so that we can do it at scale. So that's how I would define it.
No, and kind of building off of that, what has been your process for building a fitness tech startup?
Yeah. Good question. They say there's more than one way to skin a cat. All these different euphemisms that you can kind of think through, but there is a process that you can follow, and I would definitely say if anybody who here is ever thinking about startups, tech, like please do this. So you want to start off asking questions. So let's say you have an idea happens, you first thing you want to do is kind of like, hey, like let's go start Googling or searching. Is anybody else doing this? Right. So you want to just do your research. And then you want to actually you see the problem and you start asking other people, go ask 100 people, hey, do you have this problem? Do you have this problem? You want to see like how much of a demand there is for the problem. And then once you've kind of done that initial research, you want to start to then mock up some like ideas around, okay, like how could I potentially solve this problem? Right. And even if you're thinking, let's say you want to do a tech startup, so to speak, we're talking in the technical, right? You don't necessarily even need to go code anything. Well, now there's like low code options that you could go do and spin up quickly, but you don't have to spend a long time from when you have this idea to actually creating a minimally viable solution. So basically what you want to do is do the research, then make sure that there's demand for this problem, and then you create an MVP that people can go test out to see like, okay, could this solve the problem? And then let's say you get a couple test subjects in order to do that, and then you want to say, okay, like, does this work for you? How can we improve upon this? And so there's a book that you call like Lean Startup, if anybody's ever read it here. If not, I would recommend it. They talk about build, measure, learn. So you just want to build something super quick and dirty, get it in front of somebody, say, hey, is this working? Then measure the results and then learn from it and then iterate and then iterate and then iterate. And so once you kind of have that process, then you trying to essentially what you're trying to do is get to product market fit. So once you have product market fit, then it's like, okay, we have a solution that actually solves a validated need in the market. And then you want to take this, all right, now let's go get some dollars behind this, and then let's go scale it and be off to the races. So that's kind of like the high level flow. Now, I think that it's very important to talk about, especially if you're talking about like tech startup, who you are as a person is also very key. Your character, the way that you interact with people, every interaction that you have. I mean, the fact that like I'm on this call with Devin, like Devin's not reaching back to me if he doesn't think that there's somebody who's going to be able to add value and has, stand integrity. Like all these micro interactions matter and add up when you're reaching out to your network. Hey, I'm about to start this venture. We're about to start raising a friends and family round. Would you invest in us? These are things they're because it's so early, they're only going to invest in you. They're betting on the horse, so to speak. So you are the horse. So like, hey, like there's a lot of things that could go wrong in this type of process, but they're taking that bet on you. So yeah, hopefully I answered the question there, but I know that was a little bit all over, but just trying to make sure I'm just kind of give some insights around it.
No, I think that was good. It's good context, and I think you laid out. My mind goes to the software development life cycle and agile when you talk about build, measure, redo, essentially reiterate. You want to get MVP out there, figure out what do people need, how can we test it, how can we make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. All right, let's go make some changes, pivot. All right, let's test this out now, and it's continually an iterative process. That's why our phones get updates all the time. We're continually iterating. Apple's doing it with iPhones, so of course we got to do it in our own worlds. Which
100%.
is
And
something.
let me add something real quick. I didn't cut you off real quick, but
Yep.
just because you sparked it in my mind, especially because the title of this was like Spotter and sprints,
Yep.
and I mean, and that's that. So I kind of gave you like the high level, but literally how we're building now is in that build, measure, learn process. We have we've gone out and have like 15. Well, now we have like 30 beta testers on our platform,
Nice.
and but initially once we got the MVP out, we had 15 people said, hey, we're gonna give you this platform. It's super functional. We don't even have a lot of high fidelity designs. We're just gonna put this in your hand and like let us know if it works. And so we work in 2 week sprints. So our team, so David's leading the code, and then we have another contractor who's working with us. And every 2 weeks, we're just pumping code. We release another update. We'll have a call with the trainer to see how they like it. They'll use it. They'll tell us what they like, don't like. Oh, I see the vision. We have a roadmap that says, hey, we're here. This is where we're trying to go. And then once I'm having those calls, then we're prioritizing the roadmap based on the feedback that they're giving us. And David, my co-founder, he's always keeping me honest, is to make sure that we're not doing scope creep, because the development time, you don't want to spend, a month and a half, two, developing something that turns out that nobody wants, right? So having that feedback loop is critical, and also making sure that my developers have that same empathy for the customer that I do. So it's like, hey, you're not just building, a thing. You have to think about it like, what does the actual end user want?
Guys, question here.
Let's go ahead, George.
You used the term, what, MVP?
Yep.
What does that stand for?
Kevin, do you want to take that?
Great. Yeah, great question. And if anybody has questions, definitely I will answer those. Am I showing up well? It's a little bit laggy on my side. I just want to make sure. Y'all hear me fine?
It jumped a little bit. We're good now.
Awesome. Yeah, so George, great question. MVP, so minimal viable product. So that means, let's say if I wanted to make a brush or something like that, and I was trying to figure out something to brush my head is nappy before this brush was born. I would take like some straw off the ground and like let's see if I'm just scratching my head or something to see if that would work. That's like an MVP. And so then it's like, oh, like, okay, this adds some type of value, but I can refine it. Maybe if we like put a rubber band together and make it and add a handle, and then I'm improving on the MVP. So it's like you can test out the solution by not making like a fully fledged solution, but just something that's very minimally viable in order to test out to see if it works. I hope that does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah, it's akin to agile development methodology.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I actually think that's why I first heard the terminology, learning about agile and Scrum methodology. So, yep. But what's the most basic way that we can solve this need, and then we can build on it to make it better to really fill that niche that we're
Exactly.
trying to get to.
Thank you.
Thanks, George. Great question. And kind of along those lines, Kevin, a question that came to my mind as you were talking, since we're talking to a technology group here,
Sure.
what are some of the maybe the I don't know if most popular is the word, but maybe the most pertinent tech stacks you would say as it relates to fitness tech startups? Are there any, coding languages, programming languages that you use more often than others, or any particular tools or systems you use? You mentioned like low code options, which would be great for people who aren't the biggest programmers or coders. Just what can you say in terms of tech stack as it relates to fitness tech startups?
Oh, give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna pull up my tech stack because I had a feeling that you guys would ask this. Give me 2 seconds. I'll give you the whole tech stack. 1 second. As I'm pulling this up, we use to kind of organize everything. We're using Jira, so that's helping us with our Kanban board. So we're moving everything across. We're building natively. So as of right now, we have iOS, and that's what we're focusing on. So we're using that. We're using React Native in order to build that. And I'm trying to pull up the rest of our tech stack. David, obviously, once we go to Android, we'll be using Kotlin. Let me see here. And this is, and let me see what else. And so, yeah, so we're using React Native. We are building it natively. Once we go to Android, we have Kotlin as well. Yeah, so and this is a piece where it's like having our team together. So like David, my CTO, he's the one who's handling most of like the actual like technical building of the platform. And we obviously, like I said, use Jira in order to write our technical tickets, and then these guys will give it to the developers, and then they'll drive it across the finish line. And yeah, my screen's not pulling up, so that there.
No, that's fine. We don't have to give away all the secret sauce anyhow. But I think it's
Yeah,
good just to give the context for those who are a little more hard technical on the call to understand some of the things you're doing and the technologies you're using to make this happen. It sounds like it's going to be iPhone friendly first based off of iOS. But we know
exactly.
scale over time. But it's cool just to hear the things that go into making that happen. A follow-up question here before I go more into Spottyr specifically. When we talk about fitness tech, how big would you say the fitness tech market is right now?
Yeah, so I mean the fitness tech market, that's around like a $10 billion market.
Mm,
So we're uh and it's growing. The proliferation of, the creator economy, online training, it's making that pie a lot bigger. Now Gen Z is coming into the market, and excuse me, they're looking for a lot more personalized wellness experiences at scale. And they're coming in and create increasing that pie. So being able to capture those users is paramount to success. And then also you got baby boomers. Those people are also like looking to stay healthy as they're aging out. And so yeah, so this is a big market. Um, Obviously you have like the AI piece that's going coming in as well, and that's also going to push the market upwards as well.
nice, thank you for that. So that understanding the market you're in, let's get into Spotter a little bit here, specifically your baby and what you've been working on. So you've talked about it a little bit, but I'll let you go into a little bit more detail. Just what is Spotter and what separates you from the rest of the market?
Great question. So Spottyr is a mobile platform for personal trainers and wellness professionals to manage their business and connect with their clients. So, simply put, like our tagline is you spot your clients, we spot your business. And what we do is we help the independent trainers and coaches streamline the operations of their business so that they can spend less time on the back office and things that they don't want to do and more time actually helping their clients achieve their goals. And we do that by helping streamline their scheduling, that streamlines across all the different platforms, their workout programming, where are positioning ourselves as the trainers or coaches' first hire. So if you go into the platform, there's a dashboard of the first thing you see, and then you can see how much your earnings are, and then what you can see predictively, like, okay, hey, I've sold this many sessions or packages or supplements, and what actions do I need to take in order to be able to hit? Let's say I want to have a $25,000 a month. Oh, if I go, sell this many more packages, then I can hit that. So it's like we're kind of like bringing in my financial knowledge from the business days to be able to like kind of coach them up, but then also give them the tools to be able to manage their business. And then we also are going to have like a community piece as well. So where trainers can actually connect with each other on the platform and then share best practices. And we have some future vision that I won't necessarily say all the sauce on the call, but where we can kind of take that community and expand upon it. And also, it's very key for these trainers and coaches to be able to manage their clients' progress on there. So there'll be the command center where you can see all the wearable information, how they're progressing, the progress photos, to be able to keep them on community so that these trainers and clients relationship become more sticky. Because through some of the research that we've seen, is the average client trainer relationship is only 3 to 4 months. And if let's say, hello, summer's coming, let me go get a trainer so I can get ready for the summer. How many times have people have done that, right? But being able to kind of shift the client's mindset to say like, hey, like it's not just about like getting ready for summer, but how can I turn this to a lifestyle? Or can I, change that habit so it's just like not this one little thing that I'm working towards. It's like this is the lifestyle I want. Or, could give them other goals to kind of continue their training and regimen. We're being able to basically house all of that in-house and empower the trainers so that they can manage that relationship with their client on the platform.
And that's dope, man. I'm not a trainer and I don't think it's in my purview, but it sounds like a great platform nonetheless. And I can see how that could be beneficial for so many. Because you talked about it earlier, at the center of every business is people. No matter what your business is, it comes back to people. If you construct roads, people got to drive on it. If you construct the buildings, people got to walk in it. So talking about people and you being kind of the person at the center of Spottyr, want to kind of go back to something we touched on it a little bit earlier, when we talk about strength training versus cardio, and you used to play soccer, and people start coming to you like, how do I stay in shape like you're doing? So what's been your fitness journey, and how has that shaped the building of Spottyr?
That's a really good question. I don't think nobody's asked me that specifically. It's always like Spottyr or Kevin, like separate. Yeah, so honestly, I mean, I'm human. And like I said, I grew up playing soccer competitively, and then it morphed into like continuing to work out. And I've been always, in shape, but then for me, what would always end up happening personally is whenever I do something, I had a very like I don't even want to call it toxic, but I had a relationship with, going super hard, like work hard, play hard. And when I'm really focused on something, I kind of like really focus on that one thing, and then I'll drop some other things. So what would happen is like, oh, like I'm trying to get in grad school, so I'm gonna just focus on this, and then like let everything go. And so I would have like a yo-yo effect with like my like actual like physical health. So I'm focusing on this, and then I'll like go put on 15 pounds, and then I was like, oh man, I hit this goal. Like now, let me come get in shape. And so after that, then went the other extreme. I was like, I'm gonna go do a bodybuilding competition, and so I go and shred 30 pounds in like 4.5 months, and I go from like super kind of out of shape. Also, this is the pandemic happened too, right? So it's kind of like give you the little context of the timeline. And then I go to super like, oh, like aesthetically, on stage competing with the best of the best. And, but I realized even that was, yeah, I knew the formula, so to speak, to get in shape, but it wasn't sustainable because as I was in grad school, had trying to build Spottyr out, that's a lot of stress. That's a lot of, time that's, going into that. And so then I kind of like petered off again. And so now it's really opening my eyes to see that again, this is what I was talking about. Like it's more of a habit, like lifestyle change that you have to make that so you can keep it the longevity of your health and wellness. And that is, really what it's about. It's not about just a quick, oh, like let me just go get in shape like super fast for the summer or for this thing. You want to be able to do it where it's sustainable. And that's what I used to tell my and teach my clients all the time as well. You want to make this sustainable change. And how we're looping that into the platform is, if I'm your coach, Devin, right? Like the relationship that you and I have is, it's a special one. Like it's people business. Like that's what we started off talking about, right? So we as Spottyr don't want to come and tell you how to manage that relationship between, me and you, but we want to just empower the trainer so that how they decide to manage their client, like we just give them all the tools to be able to do it in the way that they want. Because I might, you might have your bit clients and you might want to run a different way, but and I might want to run mine a different way, right? We just want to empower you to be able to run that as you see fit. And that's really what we're working on. And we want to be able to empower folks. And I think it's important that like fitness professionals don't sit up here on these calls and say, hey, like, don't ever struggle with my, eating or struggle with my, staying strength or look, oh, I'm going through a period in my life where I'm not in the, tip top shape and I'm showing you all the highlights on social media, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever. No, like we go through it too. And so I think when you make yourself more relatable and just accessible that people can really identify with that. And then that's what's actually going to help that creation, that connection and bond together. So we try to bring that in everything that we do. Um, and then lastly, I want to just kind of quickly like touch point with this. So obviously we're building Spottyr and it's a technical platform, but we're also building a community with trainers only. So we're doing an event that brings coaches, wellness professionals, fitness enthusiasts together where we can actually be it's one thing to have the tech, but you got to also, we like to say be dope in real life and actually really be able to like build a community. So as we're, trying to build our customer base, we really want people to actually be able to know who we are as people. And so that's what actually makes the connectivity for people to want to stay on our platform. The product's going to be good, but we really want to make sure that people have an affinity for the brand as well.
Absolutely. It looks like we have a question. Gilliam, I think that's how we pronounce your name. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'll give you the
It's
floor.
Guillaume. It's Guillaume, like Robert Guillaume.
Gilliam, got it.
How you doing, folks? My question is, Kev, I got a question for you. It's funny that you mentioned your travels and journey because I'm kind of parallel to you, but I'm much older. Um, my question to you is, with with your platform, most of the health and fitness apps that I see are very generic and cookie cutter. For those of us in the African American community who actually have pre-existing conditions, diabetes, hypertension, things of that nature, how do you create or generate an app that focuses on those areas and gives them the proper exercise nutrition to incorporate to help not manage those issues, but eradicate them, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Thank you so much for that question. Um, I think it's preventative healthcare is, very important to me. Actually, so I haven't talked about this at all. So I grew up in a medical household as well. So my dad is an internal disease infectious doctor. So, having that, seeing a lot of like the patients and that he used to work with and, it really kind of seared something in my brain to say like, oh, like how do we actually help these people, help folks on the front end and kind of create something that especially in our community, will actually make that impact at scale. And as we're thinking about our product, we're at a stage now, kind of going back to agile, like we're iterating to make sure that it's not generic. And this is why we bring in, hey, not just, hey, myself, my co-founder and the dev team, call it 3, 4 people, but we're actually like looping in, folks with these issues and problems and trainers who are serving these people and say like, hey, this is what I need in the platform. Oh, like, yeah, you built out, you can create the workout, you can add the sets, exercises, but do we have something specific in there that you said that will help, give coaching to somebody who's diabetic or somebody who has high cholesterol? How can we actually, what tips can we give them that are actually going to help them? And another thing that we're looking at doing kind of on our pipeline is potentially partnering with hospitals so that we can be the preferred partner. If like, let's say you go into the hospital, you have, diabetes, and say, hey, like you need to work out. Here, we're going to go send you to this platform. Like we're literally thinking through how do we kind of create that connection. And that's something that we're actively working on as we're building the platform. Great question.
Thank you. It looks like Tori has a question.
I just wanted to ask, how did you come up with the name Spottyr, is it? What was the motivation?
Yeah, so the name Spottyr, so Spottyr, Spottyr. Yeah, so Spottyr is like, like if you're in the gym, you're working out, like you
Get
need somebody to
spotted.
spot you. Yeah, so that's kind of where the name comes from. And just in literally, if you think about the name, it's about helping somebody achieve their goals. You don't necessarily always need a spotter, but once you have a spotter, you can, if you've hit in the gym before, you'll try to max out. You'll push yourself to the limit. You'll go after that next rep, knowing that you have a spotter that's there to help you. And so that's really how we are positioning ourselves so that we can literally help, these trainers and coaches go to the next level. And the TTYR came from like you can't trying to get the spotter SPOTT, you can't get that name. It was already taken. So like that's where the spelling comes from. And we're trademarked, so don't anybody else try to take that. So we're good to go.
Well, I like your messaging around what you just explained. So hopefully that's your marketing message as well, because that's pretty good and spot on message.
There you go. Thank you.
I saw Gilliam asked the follow-up question to the previous conversation around, does that include holistic as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've talked a lot about like trainers and coaches, and I'm trying to be thoughtful about the words I'm using for who could actually use the platform. Yeah, so we've had holistic coaches be able to leverage the platform and handle their businesses as well. I mean, honestly, this platform could serve like a lot of people horizontally, but it's like those are kind of edge cases, so to speak. But we are focusing on like the fitness kind of wellness space. But yeah, we definitely have somebody who's trying to host a holistic session and they're trying to bring people together. We definitely would partner with those as well because kind of just if I'm just kind of reading into your question, you just fitness as a whole is more than just strength training and aesthetic, be trying to be aesthetic. It's really about the holistic experience, like mind, body, spirit. And if you don't have all of those things in check, you're kind of missing the point.
Thanks for that. Any other questions from the audience? And if you can't speak, feel free to drop questions in the chat. We'll ask them for you. But while the people are thinking, I want to ask you, what's been your biggest learning on your fitness tech startup journey so far?
Yeah. I think that, and I kind of alluded into it before, it's who you have to be in order to do this. This doesn't happen by accident. You really have to show that the level that you operate at is the level that your business will be able to achieve. So by your ability to attract talent, your ability to be responsible, your ability to show that you can transfer certainty to investors that you can deliver on what it is that you say you're going to deliver on. You have to literally become something else. So you're constantly like working on yourself. And so it's not just me. This permeates through the whole team. So whenever we're having our team meetings, it's hey, like how are we improving, growing so that we can handle more, so that we can take this to where it needs to be. So I think like that is kind of like the biggest like self-learning from the business perspective. It's you gotta move fast, especially in like the startup world. I mean, things are moving so fast, and you just I'd rather put something out there, learn from it, than like sit back behind my desk here and then just like analyze all day and like not make any decisions. Because by the time it takes me to analyze, make one decision, the competitors, put three things out and learn from it, and then they actually know. All right. And so, just I think that that's one of the biggest things I learned because coming from a financial background, corporate finance is very much like analysis, analysis, analysis. Make sure that you have a gap of margin of error of 1%. So like you have to make sure everything's right before you hit send. And where in startup world, it's I'll go try something. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what's the word? Uh, what was Amazon's AMP? Amazon AMP. They had this like podcast kind of like radio type thing. So that was a startup within Amazon. They blew $400 million on on this startup. Like they just tried something. Now it didn't work, but it's like they got it out there. And so it's like you just have to go try some things at that time. So
Yeah, I'm
I'll just leave
salty
it
about
at
AMP. I had a radio show on AMP. I got a couple
that.
payouts too.
Yeah.
AMP was dope.
For sure.
Tori, I see another question from Tori in the audience.
Excuse me, I didn't want to hog the time or anything. One on the business side and then on the technical side. For the business side, did you leverage any of the resources that are out there from SCORE and SBA? And then after you answer that, I'll ask you some technical questions.
No, so no score in SBA. I'm aware of like the loans and whatnot that they have. The route that we've gone is we did pitch competitions, accelerators, and then we've started to raise money via like angels and friends and family. So that's how we've capitalized ourselves. And excuse me, and that's how we will continue to capitalize ourselves once we continue to kind of make progress with the business. Yeah, well, part two.
Okay, part two. I am an agile coach, and I did drop you a message in between. You mentioned with your team, you guys are using a Kanban. I'm assuming because of the way you are flowing in your work, you didn't want to do the Scrum. And so one of the best methods as far as keeping that flow using Kanban is the best way if you don't have set goals. And typically when we think of lean and agile ways, making sure that you are setting sprint goals or what have you will help, help your team focusing on what I heard you mention earlier. Maybe this is not a question, but more of a tip because I've helped companies like PayPal and America Online get through multi-million-dollar projects, but making sure that you have those sprint goals. And as a developer myself and a agile coach, I used to see how the development team, they may not get the business aspect like you do. So making sure in your stories or whatever you're creating that you also articulate not only the acceptance criteria, but the business value on that particular story so that your development team can see what the business side is trying to accomplish. And they won't, just kind of take it like, oh, this is just some miscellaneous request that they're making. They actually are going to see the value that comes in to what you're putting out there. So I guess that wasn't a question. It was more of just to, I've seen all the teams, the different development teams at these big companies, and I've measured, did team analysis, team dynamics, and just see how they operate. And being a developer myself, I was able to help them overcome, some of the things the thought patterns that they had as far as even documenting. Make sure you're getting them to document what they're doing so you have those artifacts in your repository and you never have to not never, but you won't have to reinvent the wheel when you need to create something else, because I'm sure you're going to be taking it to another level and another level after this. So those are just tips. So
Appreciate that, Tori. And it's I'm smiling. I have this like smile on my face because just that communication, I don't want to say barrier or gap, but just, coming down the pipeline of like, hey, this is what the business needs, and then translating that into like, the business, not values, but the goals, objectives, and then turning that into acceptance criteria and making sure that like we meet like at that point so that the handoff is clean. I mean, that's so critical. Because without that, it's like it's hard for developers to have like the empathy that's needed to like, okay, like this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so like, yeah, you can go build it, but it's like you need to understand the why, and that goes such a long way. And so yeah, definitely appreciate that.
And one other good tip, in that you're not using the Scrum, but with Kanban, but take that retrospective session or ceremony that's out of Scrum and utilize that. There's a website called Ideals Board, IDEAZ wait, it could be Ideal Board. Look it up, but it'll help you. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. It'll help you be able to go over, always want to reflect on what you did before and how it can improve. And so that Ideals Board website helps you to, capture, what we did well, what can we work on, and then next steps. You can do it in Jira as well, but just making sure you have that retrospective session, because that is so key to informing, the next set of work that is, or, set of artifacts that you're trying to produce. Okay. Features, rather.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Anything else from the audience? Well, Kevin, we're almost here at the end. Any last closing thoughts from you? And then also, how can people stay engaged with you after the conversation?
For sure. Again, Devin, just thank you for having me. I hope that, this has been beneficial to you all. I know this is like a very tech crowd, and obviously we're building a tech company, but I kind of have the business brain. But I would just impress you all, like as you all are, developing or working in IT, just always be thinking about, what are the broader business objectives, because I think that is where you will get noticed. You're able to and be able to communicate that as well, because I think like this is where it's we don't get kind of like siloed into like, oh, you're just this tech, you're the cog in the wheel that's in order to get this done. You want to really be able to add value to the team at the highest level. I think if you're able to do both, obviously having the technical is that's the baseline, but then being able to like translate that into business goals, objectives is going to be very key. And if you all ever do want to start an idea or go on the entrepreneurship route, just feel free to definitely reach out to me. I'm a resource. You can find me on LinkedIn. I think Devin just dropped it in the chat. And just leverage the resources around you. There's a lot of resources for capital. There's a lot of different accelerators for Black and brown folks of color, and there's people out here that want to see us win. And so just have the courage to go do it. That's all I'll say. Like it's I'm not here to try to kind of preach entrepreneurship or anything, but I've learned in career that like there's nothing safe. So it's like you might as well just go do it anyway. So yeah, so I think that would be it. And I just again appreciate you all for the time.
Well, thanks for coming and joining us today, Kevin. Appreciated your story. Appreciated all that you're doing, and can't wait to see where Spottyr goes. And we're gonna be seeing you some big lights here soon. So looking forward to that. I'm glad to say I know you. If you look in the chat, everyone, I've shared the link to Kevin's LinkedIn page. So please connect with Kevin, connect with them, engage with them if you want to continue the conversation. I've also dropped the link spottyr.io. If you want to learn more about the application and the platform, check that out. And as always, like I said earlier, our BDPA Tech and Career Talks, this recording will be available on our website, bdpa.org/tech, the letter N, Career Talks. It'll also be on YouTube and our national BDPA channel. And last but certainly not least, I know we have some national board members on the call. Please go to conference.bdpa.org and make sure you register for BDPA Con 24. We will be in Atlanta, Georgia, July 31st through August 3rd at the Westin Peachtree Plaza. If you've been before, you know it's a good time and you don't want to miss it. Well, until next time, stay safe, stay blessed. and we'll catch you soon.
All right. Thanks, Devin. Y'all have a good one.